Let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're exploring humanity's absolute most foundational and honestly most mysterious creation: language. We completely take it for granted, but the ability to turn just random sounds into complex meaning is literally the bedrock of everything we know. I mean, from science and law to love, history, and our own identities, language is the one invention that made every single other invention possible. I want you to picture this for a second. Imagine an incredibly dangerous, prehistoric world, but it's completely stripped of all words, all sentences, all stories. You're leaving our ancestors with nothing but gestures, raw feelings, and grunts to navigate this truly harsh environment. Now, they desperately needed to cooperate, right? They needed to share where the food was or warn each other about predators. But silence or just random noise just wasn't going to cut it. So how did these small, vulnerable groups of early humans go from that silent, perilous existence to the massive, highly organized society we live in today? Let's look at Section 1, Evolution, Not Invention. What's really fascinating here is that language wasn't just some sudden eureka moment. It wasn't invented by one lone genius on a random Tuesday, the way you might invent the wheel or a tool. Actually, it was a slow, collective climb across a huge span of time, completely driven by our intense need to survive. Early hominins likely started out with step 1, simple warning calls, facial expressions, and pointing. Then, over thousands of years, those evolved into step 2, repeated group signals. So maybe a specific grunt always meant danger, or a certain call meant, hey, I found food. Only much later, through a ton of gradual refinement, did we hit step 3 with shared symbols, which eventually paved the way for step 4, the incredibly complex grammar we use today. Moving on to Section 2, the power of symbols. The absolute turning point in human history happened when early hominins made a monumental leap. They invented the symbol. Now, a symbol is just a sound, gesture, or word that stands in for an idea, a memory, or an object. But what it does is allow humans to compress reality into shared meaning. The exact moment a sound stops being just a sound and starts representing something that isn't physically in the room, you unlock the ability to organize thought. Language doesn't just help us talk to each other, it literally helps us think. It makes complex planning and abstract reasoning possible. For example, think about the word fire. When you hear that, your brain doesn't just process a bit of acoustic noise. No, it instantly jumps to memories, concepts of danger, maybe a warm campfire or a blazing forest. Words turn the vast, chaotic world into these neat, manageable little units that we can easily hold in our minds and share with someone else. Okay, Section 3, Anatomy of a Speaker. So, why us? Why were humans the ones to develop this incredible superpower? Well, we hit the anatomical jackpot. We developed a highly flexible tongue, a descended larynx compared to our primate cousins, and really fine motor breath control. But, it's not just the physical hardware, it's the software too. We evolved brains capable of handling symbolic systems, combined with our totally unique social cognition. To actually speak meaningfully, you have to understand that someone else knows something or needs something from you. When one person points, the other person looks. That shared mental space, that shared attention, created the absolute perfect nursery for speech to develop. Now, there is a fascinating contrast to make here. Obviously, lots of animals communicate. Bees do complex dances, dolphins have vocalizations, birds sing, wolves howl. But while animal communication relies on vital but strictly limited instinct-driven signals, human language is this open-ended creative engine. It is capable of generating infinite new messages. We can combine a handful of sounds to talk about the past, the future, hypothetical situations, and entirely imagined worlds. We don't just use language, we are constantly producing new language. That brings us to Section 4, Building Shared Memory. Picture our early ancestors gathered around the firelight. Language was evolving into a crucial survival technology because it allowed knowledge to travel across time. By doing step 1, naming objects, we started separating specific things from the giant, undifferentiated world. Then, gradually, we developed steps 2 and 3, combining those names with actions and adding cause and effect grammar to explain who did what, where, and why. All of this ultimately led to step 4, passing down survival stories. By sharing the memory of a massive flood or a really successful hunting tactic, we could literally inherit the wisdom of our elders without having to repeat their deadly mistakes ourselves. And the ultimate result of all that shared memory? It's the ability to finally say, this is who we are. That single phrase represents the birth of culture. It shows exactly how shared memory turns these small, isolated groups into true communities with unified identities, learned behaviors, and shared expectations. Which leads us to Section 5, How Language Created Us. There is this profound feedback loop that is completely central to our evolution as a species. Talking organized our thoughts, and having organized thoughts allowed us to talk more. As the quote says, language is not merely something humans created. It is the thing that created modern humans. It didn't just support society, it completely reshaped the human brain and gave birth to consciousness as we know it. The more we communicated, the better we got at organizing thought, which then fueled even greater intelligence and social cohesion. And it goes so far beyond just trading basic survival data. Think about phrases like, I love you, I forgive you, I remember, or I am afraid. Words became the tool for emotional reality. They allowed us to build an inner world, become fully self-aware, and share pain, hope, grief, and forgiveness with others. When you say, I am afraid, or I remember, you aren't just describing a feeling. Your mind is folding back on itself. You are giving structure to your own self-awareness. When you scale this up, it changes the game entirely. Step 1, spoken words were incredible, but they vanished the exact second they were spoken. They were bound by memory and presence. Eventually, the invention of Step 2, written words allowed the spoken system to completely escape the limits of time and distance. Writing could outlive the speaker. It preserved laws, religion, history, and science, which is what ultimately built Step 3, modern civilization at scale. I mean, literally every school, contract, and piece of technology you use relies on this foundation. So the big takeaway here is that every single time you fire off a text, write a caption, or passionately debate an issue today, you are participating in a massive, continuous evolutionary loop that was built by countless generations before you. Every phrase you speak is part of this ancient chain that started with simple signals in a very dangerous world and grew into the incredible global web of communication we live in right now. Language truly became the architecture of humanity itself. So I want to leave you with this final kind of mind-bending thought to ponder about the miraculous origins of our shared humanity. If you could go back and listen to the very first human conversation ever spoken, what do you think it would have sounded like?